Thunderlane, Shining Armor, A True Love by Switch Down. After that, Thunderlane became a Wonderbolt. His brother had often looked up to him, but with just one thing that most of his other team members had asked him: if he had seen any particular special zone pony, because most of the other team had their special zone pony, or were at least seeing some pony, or at least dating someone. Like Spitfire with Soren, and even Flitfloat had been interested in Lightning Strike for a time. So they all had asked Thunderlane if he was interested in some pony, but he said no. Then Spitfire had asked, how about Rainbow Dash? But it turns out Rainbow Dash was also already taken by United Stallion. So Thunderlane was the only Indian member of the team who has not been seeing any particular pony yet. But he didn't care or even mind he was single for so long time, since now he is a full member of the Wonderbolts and also raising his own younger brother by himself after that his parents passed away only a few years earlier. So he had his time as a Wonderbolt and as a parent-brother type with his own brother. He's his own brother. He had not much the time for a dating, but his brother had always tried to convince him that he can take care of himself, even though his brother is away from Wonderbolts, training or upcoming shows or something. But even though it happens that sometimes that Thunderlane had put up babysitter for Rumble a few times before, so that would make him more time for himself even when he has no training or as something else. But Thunderlane didn't want to do any dating for so many times, because even he had been offered by some other mayors, but he often declined because he has much to work to do, and that he had to raise his brother, and so much anything others. So Rumble had then been asking around some of his friends how to give Thunderlane a break, even give him any spare time to start dating. He's getting worried about his brother just focused mostly to raise him and one the Wonderbolts, nothing else between. He didn't do anything else other than that, perhaps maybe just reading a book or something, well, from time to time, but nothing as serious as finding his special zone pony and settle down. Even Rumble's friends Scootaloo, Sweetbelle, and Apple Bloom had also get a bit worried. But they often said to Rumble, don't worry, he will find his special zone pony, just give it some time. And Rumble used to listen to the advice and give his brother 2 months. If he has found any particular pony by that time, he would try to put an ad in a newspaper for him in secret. And 2 months passed, and he did that same thing. He didn't tell his friends, his brother, any pony about this. He wanted to do it secret. And one day, Thunderlane actually picked up the mail and found, another mail from this mayor from Candelot? This is unusually. Why are you getting mail from this pony particularly? And this is another one. Another one. He had received 4 letters from 4 different mayors had been answered to this ad. At first he read them, and he was still confused. What ad? I never put any ad in a magazine or a newspaper. Then he was looking around in a newspaper and found the ad in the paper. But he had no idea who could put it in that. He even asked, he didn't think much about it, so he Frodo, he answered the letters back and said, "No thanks, I'm not much interested in this. Sorry, thank you for your time," and all that. And the next day, nothing happened. But the next day after that, two more letters, but from two different mayors. Again, he said, and he didn't read them. He just sending back to them to a return sender, sending a short message. "I'm sorry, but I'm not into dating at the moment. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time." But the letters keep coming and coming to him. At first, he was just a bit annoyed, didn't just pay much attention to it, but they always came back by a new letter from new mayors across Equestria. Sometimes from Maid Haddon, Rothingham, or even and all the way from Crystal Empire. Now, he was getting very much annoyed. Why are these ponies? He even tried. He even had talked with the director of the magazine to remove this ad, but which they already did maybe a week earlier. But now the letter's still coming in. It turns out this ad had been seen by many ponies, but especially single premieres around the question. And now he was getting very angry. And now he wonders who could have put this ad. So he even asked the director, but unfortunately the director had no lead, no information who could have put this ad in the newspaper. Only that there was a minute to the magazine by anonymously. So they couldn't trace who put this ad for them to put in the newspaper. So that makes him have to ask himself. Could he have been asking one of his team members? Did ask them, but they did have no idea that they even saw this ad. But they laughed and maybe thought that he put it himself as a part of the practical joke. But he didn't. And they explained that they hadn't been doing it because they only had some pony to do it. So why would they put that ad for him? As a joke, maybe, but they were not into that kind of joke. So then he asked Rainbow. She has the mind of practical jokes in the past. But Rainbow confessed that she hasn't even done any of that kind of practical jokes in months or perhaps in a year. And that taking that level was even way far for her to do. She admits that. And Thunderlane explains and believes her. But only then he went on his way home when he realized the other pony he could think of is his own brother, Rumble. But when he gets home, he pretends nothing is as a normal day, and he explained to Rumble that new letters that came out. If you see any more letters, just throw them into the garbage, in the trash. Nothing to read about anymore. Are you sure, brother? I don't want to make them their mares mad or sad or anything. They just maybe want to ask you out or something. Yes, I know that, Rumble, but I'm not too much into that at the moment. I told you that many times. And Rumble, may I ask you something? Yeah? Why did you put that ad in the newspaper in the first place? Rumble was quiet. He was now trapped in his own corner. Explain to me now. I'm not mad, just wondering an answer. Why? And Rumble then explained his own brother why. Rumble, I understand you want me to see me happy with Spiritual Soundpony. I know that. Ever since Mom and Dad passed a few years ago, that I promised them to look after you. But that didn't give you the right to start messing around with my life and to find this Spiritual Soundpony. Even if they find one of those bears interested, I could even if they did went out one of those bears, and what that suddenly I don't even have any connection or end up marry her without any love with her, has any fall in love with her, that would be torture both for me and her. You have to understand that. but Rumble said that he just wanted to be her to see his older brother happy. I give you what? I will try to find another special song pony before Heartswarming Eve. How's about that? And if I don't find any particular special song pony by then, sure, I will go out with a mare if you decide, and I wish who. Are you sure about that, brother? I'm sure. As to that, it's a pinky promise. And the months passed, but still no answer, no finding of any true love for Thunderlane. And he was getting worried. How would he do this? How could he do this promise to his younger brother? But he had to keep it as a promise, as his pinky promise. But then, as almost like Heartswarming Eve was closing by, there was only maybe 2 months left, and he was getting worried. But at the time, he was actually in Canterlot for an upcoming show, and he was walking around the streets, and then he bumped into Shining Armor, an old friend of his. They haven't seen each other for much since he became a Wonderbolt and he had to raise his own younger brother, but they have been writing letters back and forth for the past few years, or seen each other when Shining Armor is in Ponyville. They both went to a local restaurant to just get some lunch to eat, and then Shining Armor had asked how this Wonderbolt trading is going for him, and how to be a Wonderbolt, and how to raise his younger brother, and some other things that they had been talking about. And Rubbles, the Thunderlane, explained that all that's going well, everything else, except for one thing, that his younger brother wants to try to put up a date for him, that he put an ad for him, and Shining Armor remembers that kind of ad and wonders if that was true. Yes, he said. And then Shining Armor explained that he had been thinking about answering this ad, but he didn't know that was actually Thunderlane. And Thunderlane took that as a surprise. Shining Armor answering that date ad for him before they even know that was him. So Thunderlane was a bit curious and asked if he was into stallions or mares. And Shining Armor immediately opened that he is only into stallions, not mares. Even though that many rumors that he has been dating a few mares in Canterlot within the guard or some of those friends of theirs, but that was actually true. He did date some mares within the guard and some other friends of theirs, but nothing serious. Only with some lunch date or dinner dates, but nothing as much serious. But then Shining Armor then asked Thunderlane if he would consider even be with a stallion, even though he hasn't been with one before. Thunderlane explained, well, I haven't even given that much thought about it, but yeah, I would give it a try, he said. Then Shining Armor again had this idea and asked, would you consider maybe, I don't know, be my boyfriend or something? That took actually Thunderlane off guard, and he explained, well, sure, why not? We have known each other for many years, so why not? So Shining Armor and Thunderlane actually became together, but at first he didn't want to explain this to his friends at first within the team, but only after the show was over, then he wanted to tell them. And after this show was over, Thunderlane had gathered all his friends, all the team members, and then introduced them to Shining Armor. But they already know him, so why are you introducing us to Shining Armor? Asked Spitfire. Well, you see, Shining Armor is just not my friend, as you know. He is my boyfriend. That took all of them very much a shock. First, Rainbow Dash started laughing. Is this a joke? But all of them looked at Rainbow. Rainbow, are you kidding me right now? Are you saying that this is a joke? But no, I was surprised to see that they are together, I thought maybe they are just joking with us. That's all. And Shining Armor then explained, no, all of this is actually true. Well, I'm happy for you all, says Spitfire. And even the same day, Shining Armor actually introduced his family to Thunderlane. And it did much as a surprise. His father, his mother was very happy about this. And even after he came back to Ponyville, Thunderlane explained to Rumble and some of his friends, and soon enough, every pony in town knows about him and Shining Armor. Which there was not much as a big surprise. But Shining Armor had now his special summon pony, and Thunderlane had the same thing. And Rumble had now had to be focused on to finding a particular mare for Thunderlane, since Thunderlane kept his promise to find his special summon pony. Even though Rumble had very hard to find his particular special summon pony for his brother, just in case they haven't found anyone. He first thought maybe Miss Shirley, but she has been dating Big Mac for the past few months. And then he thought maybe Sugar Belle, but she was actually not into Thunderlane as he thought about it. But much of their relationship between Sugar Belle and Thunderlane was not much as he thought it could work out, even they were just to remain friends. But the relationship between Shining Armor and Thunderlane had remained very much strong. Even though that didn't see much each other for the past few weeks to months because of his training with the Wonderbolts and their shows sometimes in other across the country, and sometimes that Shining Armor had his duty to take care of, and that he has only permission leave once or twice in each month. So even though he had leave from his duty, and then Thunderlane wasn't available to meet him since he was probably doing much of training, but they tried to make this long distance relationship to work out, which they did. Even they met each other only maybe as much as 5 to 6 times per each month, or perhaps within 6 months. But it happened that they didn't see each other almost for like only twice for nearly 4 to 5 months. But they still write letters to each other as often as they could. And it happens that Shining Armor was either in Canterlot and that he had to do some rescue missions, either somewhere else for saving other in crisis. But that made Thunderlane's love for Shining Armor even more stronger, seeing how much his boyfriend is working to save other ponies in danger, how seeing him in action. That made his love for him even stronger. At first, Shining Armor was a little bit skeptical if this relationship was going to work out as much as he believed, and especially that his sister, Twilight, he thought that she was going to be curious and mostly wondering if this is going to work out, especially if this long distance, because she had heard many talks about this long distance never often doesn't even work out as well. So he was actually worried about it. But it turns out they were devoted pretty much in efforts to work out this relationship. And after this, after being together for 5 years, they became engaged. And only a few months later, they actually became married. Thunderlane had actually proposed to Shining Armor by having a flower, bouquet, and a ring that took him off guard. And they even celebrate 2 weeks on Tropical Island Resort as honeymoon for 2 weeks. But then, they had to do something else about their lives. Shining Armor is still as the captain of the Royal Guard in Canterlot, and that Ponyville was the home of Thunderlane. But then, Shining Armor had been asking Celestia and Luna to be transferred from Canterlot to Ponyville to be part of Twilight's new formed Royal Guard, and they both agreed. and they even allowed a few other guards with him. So he took at least 4 of his best guards with him to Ponyville, and that made that Shining Armor and Thunderlane to move in together, and soon they even started their own family, which they even adopt 2 sons and 1 daughter from a local orphanage. Both their love for each other remained strong over the time, even they had been so far apart during the much earlier in their relationship, but now they're improving to be strong and never anymore can never be separated by their true love. And that's how Shining Armor found the lane for their true love and got a big family. The end.